Welcome to the Voices of Homelessness. I'm your host, Donald Whitehead, and we conduct this program so that you can hear directly from people who have had the experience of homelessness. We often see stereotypes and misinformation about who actually is experiencing homelessness. And especially right now, we're undergoing a takeover of services in the DC area. So today we wanted to talk to people who are in DC, hear a little bit about who they are, how they got here, and talk about what's happening on the ground to the extent that they know it. This is a harbinger of issues that might happen in cities all across this country. So it is very, very important that we highlight these issues, we raise public awareness, and we incorporate those who are closest to the issue, those with lived experience, to talk about it. So without further ado, we're going to jump into tonight's discussion with Cedric Carter and Luther Lacey. I want to welcome you both to Voices of Homelessness. Thank you very much for being open and allowing people to be able to hear your story. So just to start off, we'd love to hear how you got here. You know, what brought you to the issue of homelessness, and both of you are now living in your own homes. What happened, and how'd you get there, and what's going on today? So why don't we go with you, Cedric?
Hey, good evening. I am Cedric Carter, and I am a lifelong resident of the District of Columbia. And thank you for this opportunity to come out and share my story with you all. And there's a lot of unrest going on right now. It's not what we are used to seeing, right? But it's different in this day and time we live in. I come out of the Shaw neighborhood of the district, and born and raised at Freeman's Hospital, 1959. Been through numerous of issues, some, homelessness here and there. It's a saying that I've always heard: if your name ain't on a leash, you're homeless, right? So I have been one of those that have lived from place to place, right? There were some nights that I actually had to sleep at the bus stop, and a lot of that is due to experiences that I've had with drug addiction, with incarceration, and just being the person that I didn't intend to be, right? Because God didn't intend for me to be incarcerated or homeless. Came from a pretty good family. Was taught the normal things in the household, but it was something when I, got of a certain age, I had began to, filter in with those folks that we call worthy folks in the street. You know what I mean? And got caught up in what we call a vicious cycle of addiction. You know what I mean? And for 33 years, my life was in turmoil. It was upside down, didn't know how to right size it. You know what I mean? Because of the grip that I was caught up in with using drugs and the lifestyle that I had began to portray after, being told not to go out there. Be careful of the people you hanging around, right? And my grandmother and my mother, who were strong supporters, right, even in the mess that I had made of my life, right, still didn't close the door, but I still understood that I was homeless. during that time. You know what I mean? And as a result, things just really really got out of whack. Um, didn't want to do nothing, didn't want to be nothing. I came out of a neighborhood, that Shaw neighborhood, the Seventh and T and Ninth Street neighborhood, right, where everything around us was, was glamour, and you had the hustlers, and you had the number writers, and you had prostitution. The Howard Theater was jumping, U Street was jumping, you know, and it was the place to be, right? And I had no idea that what I was visioning, what I was seeing, and what I wanted to be a part of, right? Um, I did not know what I was getting myself into. You know what I mean? And as a result of what we call an imaginary line, crossing that line, I got caught up, man. I got caught up, and I didn't see no way out. Um, and for real, in the beginning, right, it was like fun and all that, but it became a job, to try to figure out how I'm gonna get, the stuff I needed to carry me through the day, and mainly that was the use of drugs and alcohol. You
Hmm.
know, and it really, really tore my life into shambles. It put me in a dark place, right? And I didn't like see no way out. But so I went through those little ups and downs and turnarounds, right? And I found some folk, right? And I don't normally, because where the organization that I'm associated with, we try not to promote it because it's an attraction rather than a promotion. And I'll just say that I got a part. I became a member of a 12-step program,
Hmm.
right? And being around those folks, being clean, right, for the last 20 years,
20
right,
years.
it has turned my life. I mean, it's a total 360. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful to the God of my understanding that pulled me out of what we call the muck and the mire, right? And placed my feet on solid ground so that I can live a more productive, I can become a better citizen, I can become a better father, better grandfather. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely appreciate your story because it really relates to what's happening in DC right now. So let me ask you a question real quick before we go to
Uh,
Luther. So you said you had to deal with incarceration, right? Now tell me if that made you get clean. They're trying to say right now is if you lock somebody up, that immediately makes them get clean. That immediately
no,
keeps them from being homeless. And I just
no.
want to make sure that people understand that although your path was going to jail, you had to get something else to get you to the next step, right?
Yes, and it was pretrial services.
Okay.
That's what helped me get to the next path, right? And
Absolutely.
after being, more so threatened, right? If I don't stop using, I will be returning to jail because that was part of my release of conditions was to stop using, and as a result of that, I was able to actually, for the first time in my life, tell somebody, which was the caseworker that was in charge of my pretrial service case, that I needed help. See, it all happens when I admitted that I needed help. It didn't happen, just by me going to jail. I'm 66
Absolutely.
years old, right?
Yes.
And I used for 33 years from 13 to 46. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
We're gonna go to Luther. Thank you very much. Luther,
Thank you.
your turn now. Tell me Luther's story.
All right. Hey everybody. Yeah, thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my experience, my story. So, like Cedric, I was born in Washington on 1963, Freedman's Hospital. I came from a very good family. I was the youngest of six kids, and by me being the youngest, I got what my brothers and sisters didn't get. Um, we were spread out. My two oldest siblings lived with me, and my three middle brothers lived with their father. I was very sheltered. I was very sheltered as a child, but at the same time, I was a latchkey kid also, because both my parents was in the food industry and they worked all day. So when I got home from school, I had to run out of the house. You know what I'm saying? So of course I was very imaginative, and um like I said, I had strict parents. I had to be in at 7. They had to approve of my friends and all that stuff. And um I don't know. Somewhere along the way I began to rebel. You know, when I got to that age, I started seeing other people have what I thought was more fun. The drinking, the smoking, the hanging out late, and I wanted that. It was attractive to me, and so that's what I began to do, in spite of um, what my parents had taught me. And then of course they broke up, so that kind of like devastated me also. And my mother moved this man in, and he was trying to be my father, and I'm like, you're not my father, brother. But then that that kind of like revealed a side of me that now today I know that was mischievous, because I looking back, I did everything I could to upset that happy home. You know what I'm saying? Um, Fast forward, man. After years and years of drug use, and going in and out of jail and programs, and I finally I thought I had found a good job. I had been on this job, I think, 5 years, but I still couldn't kick that drug habit. And one payday, I never forget. I didn't go home with the money. I ended up downtown DC in my job uniform, and man, I ended up staying downtown for 20 something years.
Wow.
Yep, that's how I never went home. Well, I went home periods, but I ended up living on the streets of downtown DC. And it was it was a whole new world for me, man. You know what I mean? The shy, sheltered uh kid that had I thought had found myself through hanging out with people that wasn't like me, that I was attracted to, and the drugs had made me this new creation. And so I began to reinvent myself and did what I had to do to fit in. And whether it was parking cars or panhandling, or talking somebody out of their package, I did what I had to do. I found me a good home, Martin Luther King Library. I
Mm.
thought that was very innovative because it was sheltered. protected you from the elements, um, and you got to see everything, and everybody knew you, and you knew everybody, and in a lot of ways, man, that kept me out of it, kept me out um, from seeking help a long time because I always had that to return to. Even those times when I went in, checked into a program, or I went to jail, there was something in the back of my mind saying, "Okay, all I need to do is just readjust what I, was doing wrong the last time, and try and figure out how to live on the streets successfully, including my drug use. If I could just control that, I'll be okay." Because it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad, but it was more heartache and more pain than it was good times.
Hmm.
Um, I too had my experiences with getting locked up and going to jail. And the thing about it was, I already knew what I was going to do when I came out. I told myself, well, okay, as long as I'm in, I'm gonna bit. I'm gonna do. I'm in here. I'm most likely to succeed. When I leave there, they're gonna say, "Oh, Luther is gonna leave the program, or he's gonna leave jail, and he's gonna go out and he's gonna do great things." But little did they know, this mind up here was saying something different. All I needed to do was learn how to tweak some things, and I could become a successful entrepreneur, the first homeless entrepreneur that slept outside and smoked crack. And I was going to do it. But of course, it didn't work out that way. Um, I ended up uh, getting locked up again. This time, I was on probation. I was on probation, and I went in. It wasn't long, but while I was there, I did a lot of shows because that last time I went in, I was kind of fresh because I had 90 days, and then I had slipped up. That's what I call it. So this time when I went in, I was kind of usually you go in, you eat, you sleep, you eat, you sleep. This time I was kind of up, and I was thinking. I was like, "Wow, how did I get back here?" I- and somewhere in my assessments or talking to people, the word got back to the powers that be that maybe when he comes out this time, he don't need to go right back to where it is he was before he got here. And so they end up putting me in a transitional setting, and even there, I based on the people that was around me, that's what I say. But I just did. I just wanted to try it one more time. I ended up, using again. Um, and it was terrible, man. It was terrible, and I tried to fit in, and I ended right back downtown, right back at the Martin Luther King Library, right back behind cars, panhandling and trying to talk somebody out of their package, which I was good at, but it just didn't feel the same. And like you alluded to, uh, and Cedric, something had to happen, and
Hmm.
and and I was like, man, this is not working out. I'm just tired. I'm tired of this, man. It's just not. It's just a vicious cycle, a vicious cycle, and so yeah, I ended up, man. And this is no joke. I went and asked somebody for some help, and the person, and her name was Earlene Budd, and she said, I got a place for you to go if you're willing to go. And I got into a transitional house with one day clean. and that's unheard of. So in my mind, I was aware enough to know, hey man, this is special. I better grab on to it. And from there, I had got an outpatient. I stayed in that transitional house, and I started volunteering. It was a harm reduction place on North Capitol, and I went to some for outpatient, and that kind of like filled my day. And I went to transition at night, and that's been 17 years ago, man. And I haven't looked back, you know. Now along the way, I've had some struggles with trying to pull people in and share the goodness of my recovery and the good life that God has given me. And sometimes that can be a little heart wrenching when people disappoint you. You know what I mean?
Oh
Cause
yeah.
yeah, and so I had to take a step because I was actually going out in the streets with 30 and 60 and 90 days trying to pull people away from the addiction because I wanted them to experience what I was experiencing, but it wasn't happening. And as a result, I stayed in a funk, and I stayed into this semi depression. And thank God for the 12 step program that Cedric alluded to. They just let me vent and let me be myself, and they told me, look, relax, take a step back, let us help you, um, and then you'll be able to help people the way it's supposed to be. But you got to take care of yourself first. And so that's what I ended up doing. And flash forward, man, I came back and I was sitting at home. And I know, mind you, all these years I've been in some kind of way, I've been in some kind of service and helping people. And, you know, well, I was sitting at home and I was like, man, now I'm 59, 50, 60 years old. And I'm sitting at home and I'm like, man, and the phone rang and it was my buddy. And she was like, Lou, I got a this place that wanted to did you do a survey, and if they choose you for the class, they'll teach you about advocacy and all that stuff. And maybe maybe you want to look into the. And I'm like, ah. She's like, come on, man. What do you got to lose? You're already helping people. And so that's what I ended up doing. I answered the survey. I took the class. They selected me, and man, I've been just like all all um all in on going on helping advocacy, giving my testimonies, boots on the ground, trying to just be a voice, man, for the unhoused, man. And so it's terrible the way they're doing people, man. Not
Yeah, and
only the unhoused, but the citizens of DC, period.
There's so many people that's displaced, that's homeless and on, drugs and alcohol, and they just don't know what to do. So here we got all these troops coming in, uh, supposedly helping to stop the crime and all this disorder, and place get the campments out of the way and this and that. But it's not being done the right way. You know what I
yeah, and
mean?
I would say that, when people see law enforcement, they run and hide.
Yeah.
That's what I know about, people who are homeless and people who have addiction issues. You don't, they run away from, like, if some big group of troopers would have came down right after you got out, before you got to get to those mentors that helped you, you may not have ever gotten that service. If when Luther got out, instead of going with the young lady that helped him, Miss Bud, I think he said, instead of meeting her, if he would have met a trooper, there's no telling what would have happened. And that's where I think, like, right now,
Probably
you
would have
guys.
been a bad, probably would have been a bad encounter. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
I mean, I know a lot of people
Definitely,
that if
definitely.
you put somebody in a uniform in front of them, it's going to be some problems.
yeah,
And and we know people have been shot, people have been killed, and so those are some of the things that really bother me about this whole thing. But I do appreciate both of you, uh, changing your lives, going back in, because one thing about us, because I'm in the same club, but one thing about us is that, when we went through what we went through, we made a decision to go back and pull some more people out of the water, right? Now, not everybody
Yes,
does that. A lot of people,
right,
even in 12-step programs, the 12 step is really my life right now. That's what I do for a living. I do the 12
right.
step. And I know both of you are doing that, but most people that go through what we went through don't do that. They turn around and they don't ever want to see, the trauma, the heartache, any of that again. So I have to applaud you guys for doing that. And we got some valuable lessons out there when we were out there, and now we're giving back to people. I just am so alarmed. So you're in Shaw right now, and I'm gonna bet you I could be wrong. Luther, where you at right now?
I'm at the 8th Street corridor.
Okay,
I
so
came out my
go.
building this morning and they were on the corner in
Yes,
Shore.
and I'm gonna keep 8th Street. I'm gonna give a little deference because 8th Street is kind of under some gentrification right now, right?
Yeah,
It's not
Yeah.
the
yeah.
same 8th Street we used to know. And I'll say this: I've been coming to DC for 20 years, and I know for certain crime is not as bad as it was 20 years ago in DC.
Right,
Nobody can make me believe that. I remember when L and K Street was the brothel.
yeah.
So U Street, you could get anything you wanted on U Street. It's not like that anymore. But you're in Shaw, which hasn't kind of gotten that gentrification as much. It has some, but I bet you don't see a lot of troopers there, do you?
True, but the gentrification has pushed its way in.
Right, but I'm saying it's still a lot of the old neighborhood in Shaw. Uh,
Yeah,
you still see people on T Street, a little bit. You see people right at the corner going up into Howard area. But I bet you're not seeing a whole lot of troops there right now, are you?
no, it's not. No, it's not a lot of troops. Not a lot of troops. But I will say, in this neighborhood, the time I've been in this neighborhood, right, and spent in this neighborhood, even though I live somewhere else, you know what I
Mhm.
mean. And currently, through the help of Luther and some other folk, right, I'm actually looking for a place of my own.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm currently in what we call an Oxford House,
Okay.
right? I'm in the Oxford House, and but this neighborhood has really, really transformed from what I knew it to be. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And they have cleaned up. You know, it used to be a lot of addicts and alcoholics on the corner of 7th and T. That has like just evaporated.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And
No, I remember those days. I remember very
yeah,
vividly.
them days you couldn't walk. They used to tell the Howard University students when they used to go to the metro, right? Look straight. Don't look. No, look where you're going. Don't
And
stay
you're
there
making my
near people
point.
near and all that. Yeah.
And that's the point I want to make. Like, the whole idea that there's some emergency homeless crisis and crime crisis in DC is just not factually accurate. DC has gotten a whole lot better. Luther H Street has transformed almost completely from what
They,
it used
they
to be, right?
they've done a very good job. But this neighborhood has embraced the gentrification. The people that, like you said, the people that still, the young guys that still hang out in groups, they grew up here and they're
Hmm.
very family oriented and they kind of look out. They talk to the young kids like that. People talk to them like we used to talk. They used to talk to us, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it can get out of hand. But they got the word because they dispersed. See, I think um, the young people today, they got a lot of they want to challenge you in the beginning, but I think word spread that hey, these people are not playing with you. Let's just stay out their way. you
Right.
know. But nah, man, if I like Cedric say, if when I got out, people directed me to where I could go at. And if I wanted to be employed, if I wanted to volunteer, if I wanted to, they said, look, this if you don't want to deal with your record stuff and all that, this is where you go. They gonna go there, they gonna hire you, or they gonna give
Hmm.
you a shot. You know what I'm saying? And I think we do a good job of looking out for our own community. You know,
And
we don't need those people coming in here. And then like they're not going into those neighborhoods because,
that's
in
what I
my
was saying.
opinion, they don't want to they don't want the killings to really stop because
Right.
the killings is what's driving the numbers, and the numbers is their reason they given for being here, the murder rate. So leave them alone over there and let them kill each other and drive the numbers up. Then we can say, okay, see, we here and they still,
I don't see anywhere near the number of tents that I saw before COVID. So I think that, and the statistics say that homelessness in the district has gone down by 9%, and that the numbers of families have gone down. It does still say that 85% of the people experiencing homelessness in DC are people of color.
The job that I've been doing for the last 20 years in working in juvenile facilities and working in drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers, right, is where I'm most effective at. Because people that see me in, whether it's across town or uptown, they see a textbook. They see the program that I've been associated with for the last 20 years come alive, and they say to yourself, if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? And that's what It, we don't promote it. Like I said, we don't promote it. We just let our glow shine. It's because there's a certain glow that we have,
The
right? That lets
power,
folks
the power of example.
example, attraction, you know what I mean? And folks gravitate to me because I just had a guy just a few days ago, right? Because I spent some time at the Walter T. Daniel Library here on 7th and R Street,
Hmm.
right? And a guy that I don't know him like that, but I know his people, right? His associates and family members, but him and I never really had any interactions, right? But he said, I need help. He said, I'm tired. Can you help me? I picked up the phone and dialed the number to the facility that I work at, right? Let him talk to the people that do the intake and all that. They sent the Uber for him to go from where he was all the way to Bowie, Maryland, to enter into that detox facility. And now
That's awesome.
he finished that 3-4 days of detox facility, a unit. Now he's in the residential part trying to get information how to stay clean. You know what I mean? So
That's
that's the
wonderful.
examples that we live with.
yeah, yeah. I go out and I do outreach, and recently I started doing the HMIS, and that's allowed me to not only connect with people and get to know people and share my lived experience with them, but actually work towards, man, building out some kind of profile where we can identify the most vulnerable, because that's what they're looking at now, who's the most vulnerable. But it's like evidence, man, that this is why God chose me for this work.
And
And I man, look,
you've
hey,
been doing the rapid response stuff too, haven't you?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So for people that are listening and don't know what I mean, because of what's happening in DC, there's a need for people to go respond right away to somebody who's being overwhelmed by law enforcement.
yeah,
Who, this morning I heard of somebody on H Street having their cart set on fire. And that to me is the worst case scenario, that not only these law enforcement people are out there, you're going to start to see kind of vigilantes kind of messing with people who are forced to live on the street. Now, all of the people living on the street aren't mentally ill, or some of them are kids who, came out to their parents. Some of them are kids who just, like y'all said, became rebellious and, decided to try to make it on their own and figured out what really it takes to make it on your own. Sometimes there's families out there. So, we know it's a real cross section of people that are out there, but the ones that are the most needy, not pitting one against each other. This is not the help Olympics or anything, but the ones with some pretty serious mental health issues, the
That's a
most
big
vulnerable,
one.
as you said.
That's a
It's
big
just
one,
a
Doctor.
shame. It's a shame
It's a
though that
big,
they're on the
it's a big
streets,
one
right?
though. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is. And most of those folks that have mental challenges or mental health disorders, they don't want to go in.
Yeah.
They comfortable with being outside. You know
Well,
what
and
I'm
some are
saying?
some are afraid to be in because they've
That
been
that
abused.
that
Yeah,
too. That
I
too.
had a guy that it do, and I tried to tell him. I said, look, they really don't want you sleeping outside. They want you to be, you know, going in somewhere. Makes you just look good, man. If you trying to self-resolve, trying to get him. He's man, but I don't like that. I'm telling you, man. Do something to somebody. I've been to jail, and I'm like going in them shelters, man. And they watching me, and yeah. I'm just waiting for one of them to steal my stuff so I can put this knife up in her. He's been having a lot of anxiety, and so over a period of time, I just kept talking to him like, look, man, just try it out, man. Just try. Sleep in
That's
your
called
car.
progressive
know,
engagement.
just yeah,
Yeah.
man, just try it out. And so today he's gotten used to it. He's staying at him shelter. He's still a little leery.
Yeah.
He's adjusting.
Yeah,
And
because
and he got rid of his car and all that. And he ended up getting matched. You know what I mean? And so now we just got to keep him on track so he can
Yeah.
actually, because
yeah, and
But you know
sometimes
what?
the
go
streets is
ahead.
falling. You know what I'm saying? The street, I understand. The street, they
Yeah.
good news. Man, that's good news. Let me go celebrate.
Mm.
Next thing
Yeah.
you won't see him for another month. And yeah, so it's a challenge, man. And I know we all got challenges. Um, Being out on the street is a challenge. You
Yeah, and
know,
sometimes it's
it's
their
not, it's
self
not,
medicine.
it's not inexpensive, man, to live in DC. I don't care who you are.
The average rent is $2,300 a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to make about $90,000 a year to afford that at 30% of your income. That's what the federal government says you should be paying to be able to take care of everything else. 30%. That's $2,300 in the district.
Yeah.
And even the people that, like myself, some of us move into subsidized housing, and you want to come out of it, but you gotta be careful because you got too much income. They come knocking on you. You didn't tell us about this. You didn't tell, and so it makes people want to hide income and scared. It needs to be some kind of way you can self-resolve safely without threat of getting kicked out or your rent going sky high. It's like the system is geared to keep us down, man.
Yeah,
So
there's way too much. Uh, you got to jump through too many hoops. You got to prove you're poor first of all. They don't have uh, livable wages nowhere in the country. Nowhere in the country if you made minimum wage or Social Security could you afford a place to live,
Right. Right.
especially in
And
DC. I mean,
and
go
then
ahead,
and
Cedric.
then here, they didn't cut $1 billion out of the budget.
Yeah,
You
and
know what I'm
guess who?
saying?
Guess who? and that comes from the same person that thought they should put
Right,
troops and the National Guard
right,
in D.C.
right.
The
You know,
same
Exactly.
person that said there's too much government involvement in stuff. Now
yeah,
the
and
government is involved, and come on,
it,
man, it just
if
don't
he
make
really wanted to address homelessness and crime, certainly not taking $1 billion out of the budget would be the way to go.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't. That's why folks are well are suffering and going to suffer. You know what I mean? Because all your help places, they're limited. Ain't nothing they can do. Their hands are tied. They can't give out the proper services that they need to give out. You
Yes,
know? Yeah,
yeah, because one of the things they had to cut was permanent supportive housing, and we
yeah,
know that that works for people. You
yeah,
get the housing and you get like wraparound services. One thing that I always say is that everybody needs permanent supportive housing because if we became homeless, there was an issue that we need to address. It might have been just finances. It might have been, somebody got out of a marriage and didn't have any credit in their name. But there is some supportive services that can help. But the key to ending homelessness is permanent housing. And if they don't, he wanted to cut permanent housing and he also wanted to put people on 2-year time limits.
yeah.
So
yeah.
Luther, I don't know how long you've been there,
No,
but
I'm good, man.
you
They
might have been close
I
to
ain't
your
going
time
nowhere.
limit.
I
That
ain't
I
going
think
nowhere.
that's
I
a
got
ridiculous idea.
advocates behind me. I got
Yeah.
I know, but usually when the Republicans take office, this kind of stuff goes on,
Yeah.
and we usually lean towards the faith-based organizations to kind of pull the bridge the gap. But with the DEI and all this stuff that they done implemented, you got organizations that usually would come to your aid scared to get involved. Like we was like trying to find some places for homeless people to go as a sanctuary. We went to the church, 901, we went across the street to the Catholic.
Well,
No,
you know what? You know what? Part
we're
of
not
that is
doing that.
I was just having a discussion about that. Part of that is because their churches, their licenses could be revoked, and also their insurance could be revoked. But I think, like, if you read any religious doctrine, any religious document, it talks about helping people that are less fortunate. So,
Yeah.
in my mind, how can you let insurance get in the way of saving somebody's life? I just don't think that's a fair balance. But they have to keep their church doors open. Unfortunately, I'm loving this conversation, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. And I appreciate you both for being so real. Your experience is one that really gets deeper into issues. Sometimes we gloss over stuff, but I appreciate you guys really being here to tell the story to people about what's really happening out there, who's really being enforced, and the fact that if somebody uses jail, fines, jail, or arrest as a way to end homelessness, it doesn't necessarily end homelessness. It makes the next stage of homelessness harder. And it's not automatic. You got to have other things in place. You both talked about that. You
Mhm.
both talked about jail, maybe starting the process a little bit. But if you didn't have those other resources, you might not have made it. But I'm glad you all made it. And I'm glad you all reached back out to help other people. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Voices of Homelessness. The Voices of Homelessness is produced by the National Coalition for the Homeless. Coletta Harris is our producer. I'm your host, Donald Whitehead. If you're not a member of NCH, join us. This is a critical time. We could use your membership. Thank you so much. Help a neighbor, no matter what you're doing out there. Find a way to help somebody and make them better. Thank you very much. Take good care.